Presidential disasters, George W. Bush and Hurricane Katrina. Content notice. This episode discusses Hurricane Katrina and the loss of life during one of America's most devastating natural disasters. We recognize that many survivors continue to carry the weight of these events and that families are still grieving loved ones lost. If you or someone you know was affected by Katrina, please take care while watching. August 29th, 2005. Hurricane Katrina slams into the Gulf Coast with 125-mile-per-hour winds. Levees protecting New Orleans fail. Water floods 80% of the city. Within hours, thousands of Americans are trapped on rooftops, in attics, and at the Superdome without food, water, or medical care. The world watches and waits for the president to act. George W. Bush was on vacation in Texas when Katrina hit. He stayed there. Welcome to Burden of History, where we dive into the moments when history got messy. Katrina made landfall on Monday. By Tuesday, the levees had broken and New Orleans was drowning. Bush didn't cut his vacation short. He didn't visit the Gulf Coast. On Wednesday, as bodies floated in the streets and people died waiting for rescue, Bush flew over New Orleans in Air Force One, looking down at the destruction from 2,500 feet in the air. The photo of Bush peering out the window became the defining image of his response: distant, detached, out of touch. By Thursday, the Superdome had become a nightmare. Over 20,000 people were stranded there without working toilets, electricity, or adequate security. The sick and elderly were dying. Reports of violence spread. Still, substantial federal help hadn't arrived. Bush's FEMA director, Michael Brown, had no disaster management experience. He'd previously been a commissioner for the International Arabian Horse Association. When the crisis hit, he seemed overwhelmed and confused. Emails later revealed he'd spent time during the crisis discussing his wardrobe and asking where he could find a dog sitter. On Friday, 4 days after landfall, Bush finally visited the Gulf Coast. Standing next to Michael Brown, he said, "Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job." To the people still waiting for rescue, still without water, still surrounded by death, those words felt like a slap in the face. The final toll, 1,833 people dead, over $125 billion in damage, entire neighborhoods destroyed, thousands permanently displaced. The disaster exposed deep failures at every level of government, but Bush was president and the failure happened on his watch. State and local officials failed too. Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco delayed requesting federal troops. New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin failed to evacuate residents, using hundreds of city buses that sat empty and later flooded. But Americans expected the president to lead during a national catastrophe. Instead, they got flyovers and empty praise. 2 weeks after Katrina, Bush admitted, "The results are not acceptable." Michael Brown resigned days later, but for many Americans, the damage to Bush's presidency was permanent. His approval ratings, which had reached 90% after 9/11, never recovered. Katrina revealed something Americans didn't want to believe: that when disaster struck at home, their government couldn't or wouldn't save them. George W. Bush, proof that a photo from 2,500 feet in the air can define a presidency. Thanks for watching Burden of History. If you want to learn more about the moments when leadership failed, subscribe to the channel and drop a comment. Which presidential disaster should we cover next?